Hi, you're watching or listening to the Shift Training Podcast,
where we talk about personal development. We talk about physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health, and just overall well-being.
And today we're going to talk about the consequences of too much delayed gratification. Now that sounds like a cop-out right there. It sounds like an easy way out.
Oh,
the consequences of too much delayed gratification. This is a thought I had a couple weeks ago.
Right.
Where I think one of the biggest, I think this is an interesting subject because, we definitely want to prolong, we don't want to go straight for the instant gratification, right? We know that's not a good idea to jump right off the impulse, right? Mm-hmm. But how long is long enough, or how long is too long to wait for something or to work towards something that's gratifying? What do you think about that, Lon?
Well, the thing that comes to mind for me when you said about delayed gratification is there's this study, scientists did this experiment with little kids where they put I think it's a marshmallow.
Oh, the marshmallow test. Yeah,
for,
that's an infamous test.
Yeah, for how long they're going to not eat it. Mm-hmm. And then it's crazy to me how they follow those kids who did not eat it straight away with the marshmallow. There is a percentage that they are successful in whatever it is in their activities.
And then on some correlation, yeah.
Exactly. And then people or kids that ate it straight away, they saw a complete opposite of that. So I thought that was an interesting study. But the way I think of having too much delayed gratification, the consequence to that for me is, I think it's a burnout for me, because when I used to be so into fitness and so disciplined, I'm not eating certain foods that I think it will deteriorate my mission, my quest.
Get you away from the goals, yeah.
Right, and I delayed that for so long, and then I find myself to be so burned out, and I felt too much suffering, and I did not enjoy the process. But I got the result that I want, but I know if I were to do that again, it will be so difficult and I wouldn't try it.
It wasn't as gratifying as you thought it would be.
Yeah. It wasn't even, I think I did that wrong, in the wrong order. I need to find some, at least I know there will be some suffering or pain involved, or grit, perseverance, also we talked about on our last podcast. But you have to find where you have to give yourself some ways to kind of enjoy it.
Yeah, to actually make the process something that is gratifying along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's an important element. We talk about all the time is and you'll hear people like Gary Vee, or you hear certain individuals point this out, Tom Billy too. But it's just the process. If the process itself on the journey does not have points that are gratifying to you, you're playing the wrong game. So if you're doing the chase, and you're just suffering the whole time, and then you get the cracker at the end and you eat the cracker and there's no gratification, you're running the wrong race. You need to change the way you run that, because it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Yeah. So I think for me, the thought that came to mind about too much delayed gratification is, or prolonging it for too long, is that you can become disconnected from the part that would be gratifying in the first place. So you can just get lost. You can just be going and going and going and going and delaying, and just get lost, unless you love the process, right? But you can just get lost. But I think another component, some of the other consequences I would think, is that it could make you too complacent. You could become complacent with the idea of, I'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
It's okay if this doesn't happen, or if I don't push enough. I'll get there eventually. That's putting it off too long.
Yeah.
And I think that level of complacency, that losing that vigor or willingness to fight, that zeal, that energy, that passion, to let too much of that go away, I think is a consequence of delaying gratification for too long. Because we are supposed to be rewarded. Dopamine is one of the things that makes us move. It makes us get going. It's and that's one of the main reward chemicals that's keep it going.
Right. I think I know someone I know from at work where he's been working on this book. He's writing a book, and I asked him like, when are you gonna launch that or whatever? But he gave me an interesting answer. How, oh, I don't need any dates or whatever. But he's working on this for many years now. But I think that delay. I don't know if this related to delay gratification, but he doesn't have any date. He just like been working on it for a long time. He just want it to be perfect.
And I think that's one, there's a lot of things going on there for sure. But I think that is a consequence of delayed gratification. Like, unless he really just loves that process and he's afraid of it ending, I think even then I think that what you're talking about is, I think that's one of the consequences. I think that is directly relevant, because it's like if you're writing it and you want this particular outcome, but you're saying, that doesn't matter, just keep pushing it off, push off, not do it. Why would you do that? Don't you think it would be rewarding to complete it and then start something new? But I think that, again, there's a lot of things going on there. It's not that straightforward or that simple. But
right. But I think one of the options.
I think that's one of the consequences of putting stuff off. It feeds that kind of behavior or mindset. So I think, yes, you need to be willing to endure and go through stuff. But yes, you need to find a way to make sure there's rewards. The dopamine keeps you going. So if you're going to develop habits, the dopamine reward is part of how you reinforce the habits. So if you just push that off, there's nothing to really support the good habits. That's a consequence. There's nothing to say something good is happening because of this thing you're doing. No, then you just burn out. Then you just feel like you're suffering. Yeah. Right? So the consequence, as far as I can tell, is some of the consequences of too much delayed gratification is you're going to lose that drive.
Motivation, that fire,
all that it's gonna burn out. It's gonna fade away. You're gonna sink into complacency, or what I would say is like lower level energy. You're gonna become a little too passive about what it is that you think you want. And trust me, if you practice that habit with anything that at some point you deemed was important enough for you to invest your time and life into, it's only a matter of time before that transitions, or that behavior, that pattern starts to happen in various other areas of your life. And I think that it would be a bad idea to allow yourself, to allow that spark, to allow what is a great part of what we would consider living and vibrant living. I would think that's a bad thing for that to become too dim, or for that to diminish, all because we could not find a way to make something gratifying and make the process worthwhile and reinforce what it takes to keep us going, to keep life happening.
Well, what about for those people that are asking, okay, so when do I know when I had to gratify, glorify, or not glorify, but give myself a gratification of, okay, I can do this now?
I think that's a great point. There are certain rules of thumb. I think for example, I'll just choose a financial one. There are people who are very wealthy who say they don't buy a particular nice car until they can buy like 3 of them. Like they say stuff like that. Unless they could buy like 3 of them, or they could just buy it straight up and afford that. They don't do it. They have rules about it, right? So I think what's important is you need to understand what rules or boundaries you need to set up for yourself. I think that it's a matter of how much are you willing to endure on one side to get what you want, and how long is too long before you burn out. You know what I mean? So think about it like if you were driving along a path and you need checkpoints or gas stations. How frequently do you need to hit a gas station? You need to learn what your own mileage is for yourself. Yeah. And you need to know how frequently you need to hit a gas station or a recharge station for yourself. And in some cases, like for example, if you don't give yourself enough credit for the positive things that you do, you probably need to start doing some stuff daily to give yourself a little hand clap or something to reward yourself. Yeah. As you persist, as you go, that might change. You might not need to hit as many rest stops along the way or recharge stations. Yeah. But the absence of them is definitely going to equate to the burnout. It's going to equate to all the negative consequences that we just talked about. So that ratio is going to depend on you, what you're pursuing, and where you are in your journey.
Yeah, I think that's important to set some boundaries for yourself, when to reward yourself. Okay, so once you hit this 7 days, then it's time for me to, get loose a little bit because I work out so much throughout this week. So all right, I have an idea, the
Right.
logistic part of that.
Right. And then you'll test and see, and that's how you'll find out. But remember that if you want to support a new habit or whatever it is you might be trying to do, if you want to make it part of your new life or part of your norm or whatever change you're trying to actually make, rewards are part of it. So if it's not meaningful and there's a reward associated with it, the gratification part, not pleasure, I didn't say pleasure, it's gratification. If that element is not there, eventually you will fall off. Eventually it will cease to mean anything to you, not because your mind, personality decided so, but because of how the brain and the body works. It's just gonna not matter no more. Like you will not get the chemical rewards anymore.
Right.
Yep. So, and that controls the feelings, and that's part of the emotions, and you just won't feel it. Things you were once passionate about, like, I just don't feel this anymore.
Dang.
Probably somewhere along the line, the gratification came to a halt. Or maybe you just moved past it. It means nothing to you. It's time for something new. No, you have to assess your own journey.
That's right.
So I think that's it for consequences of delayed gratification.
That's it.
You need to have delayed gratification, but too long can make you just not be proactive about what you want in your life. It can kind of make you complacent. It can kind of give you too much of the give up or hopeless energy, and that become your norm. So watch out for that.
That's right. You might get burnt out.
100%.
You start to hate that certain things that you've been doing.
Oof. Yeah, exactly. All right, Von, where can they find us?
You can follow us on our social media, Shift on Your Life, and don't forget to subscribe on our channel, Shift Training.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for listening. By the way, emotional wellness classes, I think at the time of this dropping, probably is going to be like that weekend. Yeah, okay. So they're about to happen. Again, they'll be going on. We'll be doing 4 different classes, 1 hour, once a week. So if you're interested in that, you can join at any particular time. There are some other videos on our social media talking about some of that content. And we'll just be looking for some feedback on that. And that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you guys for listening. And we hope that you have a fantastic day. Peace.